Do any of you like rabbits? I love rabbits. This is a new little rabbit that someone just gave me. And oh, I just love soft rabbits. But this is just a stuffed rabbit. When I was a little girl, my mother and father gave me this book. And I was just a tiny little girl. I even wrote my name in it because I wanted to make sure that I always had it. As you can see, I didn't know how to write very well then. But I wrote my name backwards. But this book was all about rabbits, a story, and look at all the pictures. They're dressed up and they have clothes on. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to have a rabbit with clothes on? And I could dress it up and I could play with it. And oh, it would be so much fun to have a rabbit like that. But you know, this time of year, a lot of people give rabbits to children, little baby rabbits. Because it's getting close to Easter time. And for some reason, they like to give little bunnies to children at Easter time. And when that happens, those children are kind of like I was, where they don't really know that much about rabbits. And I thought that if I got a rabbit, then I would be able to dress it up just like this. And sometimes children think that too. And they get a little rabbit, and it's so cute and fuzzy, and it might have long ears like lops, or it might have the ears that go up. And they love to hug them and hold them and squeeze them and just breathe them. You ever do that with a little rabbit? Anybody have a rabbit? None of you have a rabbit. None of you have a rabbit. I might be back there, but none of you have a rabbit? Okay, so you like would you like to have a rabbit? Well, then let me tell you about rabbits, because it's important to know before you ever have a rabbit. The one thing that's important to know is that rabbits don't stay little. They grow, and they grow, and they grow. And unfortunately, for people who get little bunnies at Easter time, they grow real fast. And that little cage that they get for those little rabbits, very short time, they're not big enough. And then they don't have enough room for that rabbit. And you know, there's other things about rabbits too. But how are you going to know what's the right thing to do? Well, when I got a rabbit, I decided I didn't know enough about rabbits. So you know what I got? I got a book. And it's all about animals, because I love animals, all kinds. And this one is a guide to taking care of different animals. And I started reading about rabbits. And you know what I found out? If you have a little rabbit, you've got to make sure he's got a big enough cage, first of all. And then if you have a rabbit, it has to have an outdoor place to be, because it isn't long before your whole bedroom is going to stink like rabbit. And so you can't have them in the house all the time. And you can't leave them in the garage all the time either. They need a place to be. And so I thought, okay, I've got to get a cage. So it's got to be an outdoor cage, and it has to be big enough. What else do I need to know? Do you know rabbits have to have rabbit food to eat? You knew that, right? But do you know they also have to have hay? Yes. And then they have to have a place to go potty. And not just in the cage. They don't just go potty in the cage. They need a little place where they can sit in it and go potty in that little place that they sit on. So you need something in there, litter, they call it. And so I had to read about that. And then it says, because they eat that at night. And I went, what? When they go a little bit of rabbit poop, they eat that at nighttime. Because it's good for their body. It gives them the vitamins they need, vitamin B12. Some of you guys need vitamin B12, but I know you don't do it like that. So here, this was something I didn't know. And then I read in the book that they also need to have some snacks sometimes. But you can't give them just snacks. You've got to be careful what you give them. You can't give them cabbage. You can give them a little piece once in a great, great while, but you can't give them cabbage all the time. And then I remembered a friend of mine who had a rabbit. And do you know what happened? She fed her rabbit cabbage because they liked it. And then one day her rabbit was dead in the cage. And now I knew that's what she did. What else do I need to know? I looked through the book. Wow, I don't want that to happen to my little rabbit. And I looked in the book to find out lots about them. Well, as I've grown older, I've had a lot more rabbits. And right now I have 2 of them. And one of him, his name is Winter. And the other one's name is Snowflake. And Snowflake got sick about 6 months ago. Oh, I don't mean he coughed or anything like that. He started getting a runny eye. Little bits of runny eye was coming down. And I thought, that's strange. So I washed his eye. And I thought that would be good. But it kept running. So I went to the book and I started looking in the book again. Running eyes, running eyes. Oh, it said that it might be he has an allergic reaction to his bedding or to his food. Oh, I did change his hay. He was getting some alfalfa, and I had a lot of alfalfa, so I gave him, I'll give him some Timothy grass hay for a while. And I did. And you know what happened? No, he didn't get better at all. He kept getting a running eye. So I went back to the book and I looked again. Well, that didn't work. Let's see. What could it be? It's got a runny eye. Oh, let's see. Runny eye. What else could it be from? Oh, my goodness. There's so many things that could. Oh, I know. And I looked in the book. And it said that sometimes with rabbits, they can also have a runny eye because they have maybe a sore tooth, an abscessed tooth. And so I called my vet because he's my friend. I have a lot of animals. And so I called the vet and told him that my rabbit had a runny eye and maybe he had an abscessed tooth. And the vet said, I'll give you some drops for the eye. Because maybe it's just drops you need right now with antibiotic in it, just to make sure. And so I got the drops, and I put them in his eye. And guess what? He didn't get better. So I went back to the book, and I read again, and I read again. And it said, it really could be an infection from the abscessed tooth. Oh, okay. So I called the vet up and I said, you think it could be maybe there's a big infection inside the mouth? And he said, that could be, Jenny. Why don't you give him some shots? I'll give you the Baytril and you can give him the injections every day, twice a day in the back of his neck. Now I want to tell you, rabbits don't like shots. And they particularly have skin that you can really hurt them, and it can go all the way through to the other side if you're not careful. You have to do it a certain way and be very careful with how you do that. So I gave him shots of Baytril twice a day, every day. And you know what? He didn't get better. So I called the vet again and gave it to him again for another 10 more days. And you know what that time? He didn't get better. So I went back to the book and I began to look again. If it's not that, what else could it be? And you know what it said in the book? Take your rabbit to the vet. All right. I took the rabbit to the vet. And the vet said, let's check about that tooth. Leave him here overnight. Well, actually during the day. And then I'll find out. And early the next morning, the vet called me and said, Jenny, you've got to see this. So I went to the vet's office, and he showed me a great big lump of gunk. It was a giant tumor in the back of the eye, behind the rabbit's eye. And it was all infected and nasty, but because he had had antibiotic for all that time, it was better than it would have been if I'd just taken him at the beginning. So the vet said, we did it the right way, really. I'm glad you read the book, he said. You know, boys and girls, the rabbit is just fine. And he's hopping around, and he'll live a long life. He's already 7, and he probably will make it till he's 10. And he's very happy. And I love him, and I kiss him, and I hug him. And he's a happy rabbit today. And he sees good out of his eyes, too. So he's fine. The tumor was removed. But you know, it reminds me of something else. When you were born, God gave to your mom and dad a book to help them know how to take care of you. And I hope they read that book all the time, because if they did, they would have found lots of good stuff in that book. But sometimes people don't read the book. And the good news is you're big enough now to begin to read the book yourself. And as you read the book, you can find out how to be healthy and strong. You can find out how to be wise. You can find out when you need to go to the doctor. Do you know there is a lot of stuff in this book? But just like me, if I had never read the book, do you know what would have happened to that little rabbit snowflake? Yeah, he would have died. What do you think would happen to you if you don't follow the book? I don't know what's going to happen to each one of you, but I can tell you this, that this book can help you to be a wonderful person for God. And you'll get to know him so well, and you'll have a great, happy life. I don't know about you, but I think it's worth learning about and reading, don't you? Do you all have one of these? You don't have one of these. I found that out. How many of you have one of these? Put your hand up really high if you've got one. See, we've got some kids here that don't even have one. So that means maybe one of these offerings we pick up, we need to pick up more offerings with easy reader Bibles or Bibles that they can read at whatever age they are, and we'll get all of you a Bible. Would you like that? Would it help you? Because we want you to have the guidebook too. All right, you can go back to your places.